I think that as a photographer, it's really easy to get caught up about gear, you know, the latest camera or the newest film stock. But there's a saying, and it is quite cliche, but it still rings true. The best camera is the camera that you have with you. So in today's video, I want to talk about what I believe to be the best point and shoot camera for casual photography. Like most photographers, I love cameras, but also like most photographers, I have far too many cameras. You know, from cameras that I use on a daily basis to cameras that admittedly just sit on the shelf and gather dust. And I recently did a video on the channel about my camera collection, my, you know, go-tos, everyday cameras, those sort of things. But I failed to mention the camera that I probably use more than any other camera, and that is my iPhone. If you guys follow me over on Instagram, and no, that's not a hint, but if you guys do follow me, then you'll know that I post a lot of stories, and the photos that I post on my stories are usually always taken with my iPhone. So often I have people reply to those stories and ask which camera I've used. So I thought it would be a nice video today to talk about why I love shooting with my phone, and then browsing through some of my favorites from the last few months. If you followed me on this channel or on Instagram or any kind of social platform for a little while, then you'll probably know that I am an avid user of my iPhone 12 camera. And before that, when I had the iPhone 7, I was also an avid user of that camera. I've done comparisons on the channel between the iPhone and film cameras, and I definitely haven't hesitated to include that iPhone photography in the videos on this channel. And that's simply because it's always the camera I have with me. So most of the time, especially if I'm creating a street photography style video, most of the time I've also taken photos on my phone, as well as, you know, if I've taken my digital camera or my Fuji GA645 or a 35mm point and shoot. You know, regardless of what camera I have with me, I usually always also take photos on my phone. If you've seen my New York series, then you'll know that I tend to travel with as many cameras as I can. But I recently went on a trip to Greece, and I restricted myself to taking just the Fuji GA645, 3 rolls of film, and my iPhone. If you have a camera phone, and I'm going to assume that most people watching this video do, then it's probably the phone that you have with you, you know, if not all of the time, then at least most of the time. Pocket-sized, easily accessible, and you know, it's not like phone cameras aren't good quality anymore. As well as being accessible, as well as being a pretty good camera, and all of that kind of like technical stuff, I think one of the things that draws me to iPhone photography or phone photography is that when I take photos with my phone, it's often because I've just seen something I like the look of and I want to capture a photo of it, or I want to capture a memory or a moment in time. It's a lot more spontaneous than going out with your camera because you want to take photos. You're not setting out to take photos, you're just documenting things that you see. Not because I've decided to go on a photo walk, and not because a client has hired me to do so. I feel like it's a true form of documentary photography when you've just got a point and shoot, whether it is a digital point and shoot, a film point and shoot, or your iPhone, whatever kind of, you know, casual everyday camera that you have with you. For me, I'm talking obviously about my iPhone, but I find that kind of photography that I use to document my life and the moments, the places, and often the faces that are in it can be some of my favorite kind of photos to look back at. I think what's more is that, you know, when you're shooting with your phone, it removes the pressure. It removes the pressure of feeling as though this photo has to be perfect or even good at all. And I think that sometimes can connect you more with the idea of capturing what your eye sees, the way you view the world, moments and spontaneous photos, rather than getting hung up on the idea of a perfect composition. I usually feel the same way about, you know, cheap point and shoot film cameras as well. I tend to use them more spontaneously and more as kind of like a really true representation of what I'm seeing and what's capturing my eye than I do when I'm shooting with the Fuji GA645 or the Mamiya RZ67, where I'm really focusing on the composition and wanting the photo to be, you know, aesthetically pleasing or correct. Of course, a lot of the photos that I take on my phone are throwaway shots, but they don't really need to be anything more than that. Essentially, I'm creating a digital scrapbook of my life with a camera that is always on me and can often emulate a scene or a scenario as well as I can see it. And I'm not saying that the iPhone is going to be the only camera that I ever use, or that I'm not going to enjoy shooting with other cameras, because you guys all know that I enjoy the process of shooting over so many different cameras, so many different mediums. That's part of the reason I'm a photographer. That is part of the reason that I shoot film. That's part of the reason that I'm, you know, interested in sharing this part of my world, this part of my job, as well as just taking photos. I am interested in the processes that, you know, the process of taking photos and not just the outcome. But I think it is a nice idea that a camera that lives in my pocket can kind of fulfill my creative itch, or my desire to kind of document the world and the way that I see things. I'd love to know your thoughts on phone photography, if it's something you use often to kind of document your world in the same way that I do, or if it's something that is kind of an afterthought for you. I hope you enjoyed listening to my ramblings and some of the photos that I've shared. It's nice to kind of put this video together and put it out there as well, because I think sometimes I feel as though a shot is not worthy because I've taken it on my phone, which is a really bizarre mindset to have, and like very weird, because, you know, obviously I don't believe that equipment matters that much, but because of that I don't really share them. Like, I don't, other than my story, my Instagram story, my personal Instagram, phone photography is not something that you'll really ever see on my Instagram grid. It's never really something that I have dedicated a video to, other than when I've been making a comparison to another camera. So it is nice to kind of put these photos out and let you guys see the stuff that I take on kind of a daily basis, and that's a little bit more of a documentation of my life, opposed to, you know, client work or going out on photo walks or portrait shoots where things are a little bit more planned and a little bit more meticulous. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit different video today. I definitely enjoyed doing something different. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.